I don't even know what the term, I don't even know what the word is for it. This could be an instant classic if this goes down the way I think it's going to go down.
Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I am Alicia Jay, and Ashley, she is in Greece, okay? So I'm not going to lie, I'm having a little FOMO right now of where she's at. If you follow her on Instagram, she is having all the fun. So we're living vicariously through Ashley, but I am excited to have some fun of our own today because we have with us today CBS analyst and writer, Erica Ayala. Thank you so much for being here.
And I got to see Ashley right before she left for Greece. We were doing Big Ten Media Day, and I was like, okay, where you going? She was like, girl, I got plans. I was like, I am here for that.
Yeah, I'm here for it too. Every picture she puts up, I'm like, okay, like one day I'll be there. One day I'll be in Greece, but
One day.
I'm glad she's there on behalf of all of us right now, having an amazing
That's
time.
it.
But it looks like you are having an amazing time somewhere. Where are you right now?
Right now I'm at Climate Pledge Arena. This is, of course, where the Seattle Storm play, but today it is the Seattle Kraken that are starting a new era under a new head coach and the first ever woman bench boss full-time. Jessica Campbell will be here today as the Seattle Kraken try to get back to the playoffs.
All right, let's go, Jessica.
I know,
Yeah.
that's right.
Let's go, Jessica. Well, you're in my neck of the woods. I am from Portland originally, so I love me some Seattle. I have family in Seattle too, so I'm there all the time, and I love me some Kraken as well. So
there you go. Let's go Kraken.
yeah, well, listen, we're about to get things cracking because we have a lot to talk about today. We're in the middle of the WNBA playoffs, almost to the finals, and we're going to talk about, can anyone stop the Liberty? I don't even know. We're going to get into that for sure. We really don't know who they're even playing yet because that game happens tonight. So that's Connecticut or Minnesota. So we're going to get a little bit of that, a little preview in. And then we're also going to be talking NWSL because the Orlando Pride are rolling. They just won the NWSL Shield and they're undefeated in the season. We just have to talk all about that because it is unprecedented. And Renee Montgomery, who is on We Need to Talk, she is going to be with us for a very special interview in Connecting Changes Everything. So before we get into all of that, we do have a little bit of housekeeping because we want to make sure that you're connected in every single way possible. So check out all of these handles below. Make sure that you're following, make sure that you subscribe, make sure you're commenting and sharing because that's the only way we're going to stay connected and talk to you every week on We Need to Talk Now. And don't forget, listen, you should want to see our beautiful faces every week. But if for some reason you just want to tap into the podcast, we're where all your favorite podcast platforms are, so you can connect with us there. Go ahead and hit this QR code, and all of that will pop up for you so that you can come right to the podcast that we're on and listen to us every single week. I mean, why would you not want to? That's all I have to say. Shameless plug. But listen, one of the finals teams in the WNBA was decided. The New York Liberty, they are going to the finals. They had an amazing dominant effort over the Aces. Stewie had 19 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 blocks. Sabrina Ionescu, man, she overcame a 4-point performance that she had the game before, which was, I think, surprising to all of us, right? She had that in game 3, and she came back to have 22 points as well as 7 rebounds, going 5 of 8 from the 3. So when you think about the game that they had over the Aces and who they are potentially going to play, because we don't know yet, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, it's either going to be the Sun or the Lynx. We do know that part, but does it even matter? Can anyone stop the Liberty?
All right, so there's some layers to this answer that I'm about to give. And first, I'm going to put it out there 100%, never shied from it. I'm from New York, grew up watching the New York Liberty, host a New York Liberty centered podcast. So I know a little something about New York. That being said, for our CBS Sports preseason, I said it was going to be Liberty Sun, and I actually took the Sun. And then as we were getting ready to go into award season, I said Liberty Lynx, and I took the Lynx. That being said, I might be flip flopping again, because the real answer might be the only team that can beat the New York Liberty is the New York Liberty. This is why I say that, because the concerns that I had about the New York Liberty going up, especially against Minnesota, is because that is a long, fast team that can shoot from the perimeter. Who does that sound? That sounds exactly like New York. And I had questions on whether they were going to be able to reach into the toolkit and find some other ways of scoring. I do think that it is important to note that the New York Liberty have not lost back-to-back games in quite some time, since the early in the regular season, and that is something to keep in mind. That Minnesota team scares me a little bit, but the way that Sabrina Ionescu and really Sandy Brandello, the whole team was able to buy into the game plan in game 4 against the Las Vegas Aces to punch their ticket to the finals. That tells me that there is significant growth in this New York Liberty squad. I still think Minnesota would be the tougher matchup, because again, I think there's a lot of like for like, and the switches are just not going to be as mismatched, as they were in the Aces series. So Minnesota's still going to be a tough team, but New York has found an answer at every turn.
Yeah, and one of those answers has definitely been Phoebich. When you look at the games, and even like when she was in foul trouble and she was out, you could see a significant difference. She is amazing on both ends of the floor. She has been an impact all season long, and she does bring a little bit more of that length, especially to a guard position, which is just phenomenal, right? And she's also an example of just the fact that they're so deep. Like, they have an answer for pretty much anything. And so when I look at that, and what they've accomplished this season, also just listening to them in the post game press conferences, they are, they got their lick back with the Aces for sure, without a doubt, but they still have so much to prove. That franchise has never had a championship, and you know this because you've been a fan, you're from New York. They've never had one, and it just looks like they're primed and ready to do so. Now, without knowing who they're going to play, what are some keys for the Liberty to, win this championship?
Well, you already mentioned Leonie Phoebich, and I think something that made things more difficult for Sandy Brandello and the coaching staff was when Phoebich got into foul trouble. Now, that's something that I'd like to see her just be able to focus a little bit on. I compared Leonie Phoebich to like what we hoped Rebecca Allen would be for the New York Liberty. Length, can shoot from perimeter, but both of them have had trouble getting into foul trouble early, and some of that is just with the timing and their foot speed and things of that nature, and that can be mitigated. So that's one thing. The second thing is Sabrina Ionescu, and people who listen to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, you already know what I'm going to say. The keys are Sabrina's. Stewie is still going to be Stewie. And we know that there's been a lot going on in the storytelling around what happened last year, how that impacted Stewie and her family. But Sabrina is the key for this team. And I think we saw that in game 4. I liked how they played Sab off the ball a little bit more, getting her to what I think is her true position, a 2. So that also, my third thing is you got to let Sab have the keys. That's number 1. Or number 2. We already talked about Phoebich staying out of foul trouble. But then you have to have strong performances from the bench. And for me, that starts with Courtney Vandersloot. Because if you're going to have Courtney Vandersloot, if you're going to have Sabrina Ionescu playing off the ball, if Minnesota or Connecticut does what Vegas tried to do or did effectively in game 3, then you're going to have somebody else play the ball up. So that's where Sloot comes in. We saw Stewie playing a lot there. So it's the versatility overall from the New York Liberty, but especially in who's bringing up the ball that is going to make them successful in the next series.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, them having Stewie bring up the ball in that last game was just started them off on the right foot. You saw Sabrina go off like very early on. It it spaced them out in the right ways. There was just so many plus sides to it. And Stewie afterwards said, "Hey, I like doing it. Like, let's keep doing it." So I'm just excited. I know that, any of the coaches that are left, like the changes that they make, the pivots that they make with the teams have just been so phenomenal. So whatever the series is, I'm just excited to watch it. I'm excited to watch it on many levels. We already know that we're going to, I mean, two out of the three teams have never won a championship before, so that story is there. um I personally am excited for either of, and we're going to get into this more later, but the Sun or the Lynx, no matter what, we're just going to have a fantastic series to the championship. So really, really looking forward to that. And speaking of championships, we're not there yet in the NWSL, but we did have something that was awarded this week, and that was the NWSL Shield was awarded to the Orlando Pride. And they are just having, I mean, a historic season on many levels. They're undefeated. They have basically come from a team that was the worst to the best in a matter of, I want to say, 5 years, which is like hardly anything. So, I mean, it's just been phenomenal to watch. Another historic thing that we can put in the books for women's sports. And another thing that was of history is that the coach of the squad, he is the first Black head coach. Seb Hines becomes the first Black head coach to win an NWSL trophy. Um, he was actually the first permanent Black head coach in the NWSL history when the interim tag was removed from the position ahead of the 2023 season. So historic on that level. What are your thoughts on when you look at what the season has been for the Orlando Pride?
Well, first of all, I love defense in any sport. And that is one thing that you can really point out for this Orlando squad. Because of course, being unbeaten, it it doesn't always mean that, you are that you are scoring more than the opponent. You're just keeping them at minimum level. And that is huge in football and soccer, right? That you can do that and you can do that at will. And I love that the Orlando Pride has been able to really hang their hat on defense. That's number one. You mentioned Seb Hines, and he talked about in the post-game press conference, which it was giving me Las Vegas Aces vibes when the team like broke in and they brought the shield to him, handed him a beer and all of that stuff. It was definitely giving Aces vibes. But before he was interrupted with the celebration, he talked about how because of things that had happened prior to, so you got to remember, the NWSL had a huge reckoning when it came to coaching. And the Orlando Pride, Seb became interim because Amanda Cromwell out the door can never work in the NWSL again. And what he was saying was that people didn't want to come here. Nobody believed in the program. Nobody wanted to represent Orlando. And to have him say that, and then a legend of the game, the GOAT, Marta, say in the same night that she wants to win with Orlando, there's just a sense of freedom, a sense of like we got through that, those hard things, and now we can make the main thing the main thing. So they're playing beautiful soccer, starts with defense. I can't imagine that knowing that Marta has fewer games ahead of her than she has behind her doesn't play into that. Although she says she's not retiring, from what last we heard, she's not retiring from the NWSL or pro soccer anytime soon. She has retired from the national team, Brazil. But there's just all of these things, and it's the good pressure, right? It's the good storylines. We've overcome the bad. We want to focus on playing soccer. We want to prove that this is a program where people should be at, and we want to play for someone like Marta and with someone like Marta, who is dedicated, who is here and wants to win here. That's a lot. That's a lot of good energy, good momentum, and it's what the club needed. They've needed it for a while.
Yeah, Coach Hines actually said, "There's no secret recipe. We just wanted to create a culture where the players wanted to come to training, work hard, and have smiles on their faces." And that seems so simple, but it really hasn't been, right? It hasn't been in the NWSL and in a lot of places in sports. Not and that supersedes women's sports. That's all of sports. You know, you hear all these stories that happen across sports and you're just like, honestly, why isn't it easy to protect the players, you know, give them the tools that they need to succeed and make sure that they're happy. And one thing I love about this is where the culture of, and I'll just say women's sports specifically, is going, is that we're not going to take anything else anymore. So if you are not going to do this, you better get with it because it's not going to fly. It's not going to fly. And that is what I love. Yeah, that's one thing that I loved, and I'm so glad that you brought it up about this, is that this should be the norm. Like this is just the bare minimum of what, you know, teams should be doing for their players. And so this is a testament to that working. This is a testament to doing right by your players, and they will do right by you. And that is very, very simple. Very simple. So, you know, looking ahead for them, I fully expect for them to win out. I mean, they do have 3 games left. Portland, Gotham, and Seattle, and those are all very winnable. Those are all very winnable. So I hope the history continues as we close out this regular season, and it's just a really, really good thing for sports, and obviously a great thing for each and every one of those players that is on the Orlando Pride that has been putting in this work, and the whole program really. Shout out to Coach Hines as well. So, really, really
Absolutely.
amazing to see. Amazing to
Yeah, and
see.
I also just want to say, you know, we know that Florida as a whole is going through a lot right now. And so sport is not the most important thing to a lot of people right now. So just
True.
sending that love to the Orlando community or and the Florida community overall. But again, it goes back to that this has been a pride team that they play just that way. They play with pride. They play together because that's also what that word means, right? A pride. And I think it's been beautiful. And again, their defense allowing 13 goals. That's the fewest throughout all of the NWSL. That's wild. Like you only letting in 13. Like you doing something right. You doing a lot of somethings right.
A lot. It almost seems impossible, but it's impossible until you do it, and they certainly have done it, and just can't wait to see how it continues through the regular season and the playoffs. But right now, we're going to continue this show with something that we absolutely love. We have a amazing interview with the one and only Renee Montgomery, who obviously is a basketball legend. She's a WNBA legend, now a WNBA owner. She is a pioneer whose decision to connect with the league on a deeper level as an owner has changed everything. So we have an amazing interview with you right now with Renee Montgomery and Connecting Changes Everything by AT&T.
Our next guest is a 2-time WNBA champion, part owner of the Atlanta Dream, and a woman who will always remind you that her boots are Alexander Wang. Do not get it twisted. Renee Montgomery is in the building.
This is slander. We're starting out with slander. I did not want to say that, but you was asking questions.
Listen, don't ever, I have no qualms about letting you know or letting anybody know if my boots are Alexander Wang.
Listen,
Okay?
you're wearing what you're wearing. That's all I'm saying.
There's so much to talk to you about. Obviously, you're a player, but a former player. You've been a champion, 6 Women of the Year, but entering the W space as an owner has been something that has been so instrumental, especially in these last few years. What was that decision like, and how was that process like?
Oh man, I mean, the decision was tough because it's like you never want to leave sports. Like even when your body tells you it's time to leave sports, people don't want to leave sports. So especially not when my body, I could still play. You know, like I felt like I still had plenty of years. But there's these points in life where it's like opportunities come and you have to really make tough decisions. It's like I had an opportunity in front of me that I didn't know if I could obtain. It wasn't like I knew I was going to be able to become a part owner of the dream. I had to retire first to see if I could become a part owner of the dream. So for me, that was the hardest part, because if it was guaranteed, I'd have been like, all right, yep, let me hang him up. It's time to go. Like, let's get it.
Right.
But it was really a journey. And so what that process was like, it was stressful. I just remember there were long periods of time where I didn't hear anything, where I didn't know what was going on, if another group won a bid, if they didn't. And so for me, it was just the process of staying above the noise in my own mind of, should I have just kept playing ball? Like, what am I doing?
And what was it about the W at that time specifically that made you want to pursue ownership? It's obviously a lot has happened in the past few years, but at that moment, what was the change you wanted to see that you felt you had to be hands-on with?
Yeah, I mean, I think who better to run a sports league than athletes that grew up? Like, I grew up watching college basketball, and then in 96, the Olympics, and then 96, the WNBA started. So it's like, I watched it from the beginning. We're all women's basketball historians at this point. We've seen it from the day one. There's not a lot of people that can say that about a sports league. And so for me, I'm like, I know what players want. Like, I know what I would want, and I know what players want. And so it just started that way of just like, players want to feel like ballers. Players should have special treatments. Players should have a sold out crowd that they run out to. And so these are all the things that I knew I would want as a player. And so I'm so thankful for our ownership group with Larry G and Suzanne, because we're so different, but we're so like-minded.
Well, and you've seen a lot of sellouts this year. You've seen the change that you have wanted to see since the beginning of you being an owner. What has it been like to see that rise in the WNBA? We know there's always been growth, but the growth has been crazy this year. So what has that been like?
Oh, hey, girl, hey, by the way. No, it's been crazy to see. I just equate it to like a volcano erupting. It's like, at any moment it could happen, and you're waiting on that moment. And the 2024 class was that moment. And it's just an exciting time. Being a player in the WNBA, it was such a different type of feeling, because it's like, we knew that we were the best of the best. We knew that this is the hardest league to make, but the attention to our league was just not there. The product was there, the players, the storylines, everything is there. Now we have new fans coming in. They're getting all into the storylines that we already know. They're getting into the relationships. They're getting into the game, the past. And it's a beautiful thing. We knew it while we were in it, but I love that there's so many more people now enjoying the game.
When you look at the WNBA from a media landscape and the coverage that, especially in this last season, regular season, I should say, and the coverage, good, bad, somewhere in the middle, where do you feel the biggest improvement lies?
I would say visibility, and we still got a long ways to go with that, but I love that I can turn on my TV, and on my TV it's headlining a game, and I love that every time there is a game on, I can easily find it. Now, like I said, we could do better, but I'm happy with the progress. Like, I'm kind of one of these people that I celebrate everything. I don't care. It's like,
small wins, big wins.
Pistachio ice cream, let's go. Like,
Listen, pistachio ice cream goes hard.
It's my favorite. It's my absolute favorite. So I'm like the type that I want to celebrate all throughout this whole journey, because it's been a long time coming. I mean, think about the players that came before us. Some of them are here. I'm sure you've already talked to them. And then some of them, like a Cynthia Cooper, Ruth Riley, Ruthie Bolton Holyfield, like, players' names that people now might not know, but they laid the foundation. So I think it's so lit. Like, I'm so happy for all the fans. For whatever reason you came, welcome. Like, I'm loving it.
Yeah, and you're certainly one of the people that have laid that foundation.
For sure.
Like, you are in there, okay? Name your own name next time. Put your own name in there.
The same way I would not say these
You
boots.
named the boots.
No, I did not.
Name the name.
Who was there when it happened?
I was there.
Okay,
I heard
that's
it.
not. You said, do we have the same boots on? And I said, I don't know. And then what did you say?
No, she said, no, are those so-and-so? And you said, no, they're Alexander Wang. I'm not mad at you. They are Wang.
I got to make sure. But shout out to Alexander Wang, because
shout out to Wang.
They did dress me.
You
so
did
that's what's up.
Fashion Week.
I did.
Yeah,
Did Fashion Week with them, so that was dope.
Can't go wrong.
Well, speaking of Fashion Week, fashion has really been a catalyst for the WNBA. It has really speared a lot of the things that we're seeing. How do you think the impact of style has been on the league?
What? I mean, Listen, I went to the games when I was playing good and ugly. You hear me? Like, it was not, I don't care. It was not even a process. It was like, I'm coming to the game to play the game. I love where we're at. Like, it is a real fashion show. Even with the Dream, we're trying to make sure that their tunnel walk and how they walk in looks appropriate because we got to match the fits at this point. And I also love that there are brands dressing players. There are players that have their own brands. And so, I don't know, man, I love it. I just think I had players that I played with before, like a Simone Augustus, where she did come dressed to every game. And I'd be like, what you doing, man? Like,
where you going?
Like, where you going after this? And she's like, nowhere. So there's been players that's had it. I mean, I think of sneakerheads like Epiphany Prince, who that's been in the game, but people might know a PJ Tucker, but they don't know Epiphany Prince. And it's like, I love that now people are getting into it.
And when we talk about getting into it, we got to talk about we need to talk. And in 10 years, you might have had some good fits, some bad fits, but you had a lot of important and meaningful conversations on this show. 10 years is a long time for any show to exist on any network. You name the genre, a decade is a very long time. What is the biggest thing for you that you have seen happen in the past 10 years while being on this show that has been the most impactful?
I just think like it turns up more every year where the visibility, I mean, you have We Need to Talk that's appearing at the Final Four, the men's Final Four. You have it at the Super Bowl. You have it at the Masters. That's wild. Side note. So it's just thinking about like all the places now that the We Need to Talk brand is aligned with. 10 years ago, women in sports, women talking about sports, those desks, those seats were very minimal. There wasn't a lot of us there. But now we have a whole show where it's all of us sitting at the table talking about the game. I mean, I'm a sports junkie. I'm sure we all are. And so I think it's so lit that I'm sitting talking with sports experts that I'm watching on the screen. Just last game, they was covering Sunday football. And then we're sitting here talking football. We're talking basketball, tennis. I think that that's good for people to see because it's probably not a normal thing that they see. But yes, women cover sports. Yes, we probably have to be better because we don't have no room for error. Any woman that knows if she covers sports, if we say a name wrong, we get a stat wrong, oh my God. So it's like, you got to be careful. But that's why I think that when we're sitting across from each other, we all know the standard of excellence that we had to be to sit there.
Well, speaking about that, everything that you do, right? You have a social presence that is really great. I love your social channels, but I know that there are people that say certain things on there too, or will point out when you may get something wrong or say you did something wrong when you didn't. How do you deal with the comments that are on social media and those voices that are out there that are scrutinizing you just because you are a woman in sports?
A good clap back every now and then, just a little.
No, I'm very much so toxic positivity. It's not even, that's not even like, I honestly, it's to a fault sometimes, I think, with my wife, because this is just an example. She'll be like complaining about something and I'll be trying to give her solutions to the problem. And she'll be like, I'm just trying to complain. Like, just complain with me. My brain, that's the only way my brain functions. So if I see a comment where somebody's talking crazy, which in the world that I live in, people are kind of always talking crazy to me, whether it's from my podcast or whether it's from something on TV, like covering the game. I really kind of just don't even acknowledge that they exist. Like, it's like, I see the good comment and I'm like, oh, that's what's up. I see a bad one. So it sounds crazy because I'm very thankful for the tough skin that I had. I think being in women's basketball, you have to develop a certain level of tough skin because my whole career, people were telling us we were trash, even though we know that we're winning games and we're doing well. So I kind of just became this mindset of like, yeah, I gravitate to the positivity, the negativity. It is what it is. Like, they gonna be there regardless, but I call negative people just a stat. Like, they just added a stat, a view, a comment. You just became a stat. That's all.
Well, I mean, again, another stat, 10 years of this particular show. Favorite memory or favorite conversation you've had on this platform?
Favorite memory, I think it's going to be at the Final Four because whenever we get to the Final Four, it's usually always me, Swin, and Lisa. And there's a game of pig that happens every year. And every year, I don't know why, but I do know it's controversial because the next year people forgot who won last year. So the person that won last year says they won, but then people don't remember it. That's always going to be my favorite because of the competition. But I think talking to Coach Ariema was pretty lit at the Final Four this year. There's a lot of moments. That's why it's hard. But I just think the Final Four moments where we're on the scene, it's always a scene.
Is UConn going to win it all next year?
Oh, come on. Shouts to Paige and the crew. I mean, I mean, right now there's a lot of teams that like are looking at Paige like to just say how good the NIL world is.
Right.
Paige went on a whole press run at we talk about New York Fashion Week. I mean, Paige
was outside.
Paige
Yes.
was outside,
She's
honey.
always
Outside.
Yes.
I'm like, when school start, girl?
Yeah.
Listen, she probably got straight A's. I'm just saying.
I
I
know.
don't know, but I'm sure. But I just love to see it. Like,
too.
this is on the pro level. She's got the U.S. Open. She's at the fashion shows. She's just a brand ambassador. And so just to see how college is just exploding, it's so wild. Like, I love to see it.
And she's got a swag about her that's just, you want to watch her.
Yeah, definitely.
She's built like that. She's built like that.
Yeah, we definitely love to see it, and we have loved to see you on this couch today. Thank you so much, Renee.
We done?
for stopping
You
by.
and your Wang boots. We
What?
appreciate
You
you pulling
better
up.
leave these boots
Listen.
alone. But it's mad cold in here, by the way.
It's-
So
It
I don't
is.
know how y'all acting real chill, but
We have a jacket that we're going to put on the minute the
The
camera.
minute it goes
okay,
off.
'cause, baby, it's
Yeah.
cold. But thank y'all for having me.
Thank
This
you
was
for
dope.
being
And
here.
congratulations on
Aw.
this. We Need to Talk Now. Big late. I told you this already, but congratulations.
Thank
y'all,
you so
for real.
much.
Thank you, Renee. What an amazing interview with Renee. She's just fantastic. She gives you all the energy every single time that you interview her. And if you want to see the whole interview that we had with Renee Montgomery, make sure you check it out on our YouTube page. We have all of the full-length interviews of everybody that we've interviewed so far. So check her out and check all the rest of the interviews out while you're at it, because we have some good stuff on there. And I'm not just saying that because I did the interviews, but well, Ashley and I did them, but definitely check it out. And another thing we're going to check out, Erica, is this game that is happening tonight between the Sun and the Lynx. Game 5, do or die. I mean, I know I already have my popcorn ready. Like, it's already ready. I'm going to tap into it because when you talk about this game, there's just a 3-point differential between the two teams in the series overall. Minnesota, they have a slight edge, just a slight edge. Sunday's 10-point margin was the most of the 4 games. The Sun shot 53.7% from the field. The Lynx had a 16-4 record at home during the regular season, tying the Liberty for the best record at home, and it gives them a slight edge for Tuesday. Nafisa Collier had 29 points, 13 rebounds on Sunday, and the Sun actually, this is very important, won game 1 in Minneapolis. So when you have all of this as a recipe for a game, what do you look to see between the Sun and the Lynx?
Wow, honestly, a coin toss? I don't know. Like, this game, like, this series is so wild to me on so many levels, because you talk about the stats that you just mentioned, and you talk about that Connecticut was able to snatch game 1, a game that they talked about how important it was to get at least one, if not both, of the first 2 games, knowing they were going to be on the road. And I bet they are very, very glad that they were able to get game 1 the way this series has played out. But remember, there were some allegations, there was some reporting about some drama that happened after game 1. Now, on the one hand, if I'm Minnesota, whether the reports were true or not about, Cheryl Reeve apparently not appreciating how the Connecticut Sun celebrated after game 1, I don't even care if it's real or not. At this point, you got to defend home court, not only just to advance, but I'm not trying to get punked at home. That's just me. I don't know. I'm not trying to get punked. And then you gotta, so for some people, not everyone's gonna go there in this headspace, but I would. If I was playing for the Minnesota Lynx, I'd be like, and what you not gonna do is punk my coach. Neither. We're not doing that. Not in these parts. No.
Listen.
So there's like there's a lot of juice, right? On the Minnesota side, a lot of pride. And they shoot very well from the perimeter. That has been something in this series that Connecticut, not just this series, that has been the thing, Alicia, right? That has, in my estimation, kept Connecticut from winning a title. They are a lockdown, shut it down defensive team. And if they play a team like Minnesota that passes the ball, or like the New York Liberty that can pass the ball effectively, that has players like a Brianna Stewart, like a Nafisa Collier, that are basically Swiss Army knives, they can get themselves into trouble. So then how does Connecticut combat that? They go right back to their physicality. They lock down, shut it down, knock down, drag out, But here's the thing. Minnesota proved that they can do that too. They
Yes.
physicality to Connecticut in game 2. So when I'm not even joking. Like at this point, we might as well coin toss. Can we get penalty shots? Can we get penalty shots in the WNBA? I don't know, because this is going to be wild. We might get double, triple, quadruple. I don't even know. This game is going to be wild. And another thing is that especially on the Connecticut Sun side, there is no guarantee that some of these players come back. We've got an expansion draft. We've got veterans who want to win. There's so many things that are happening that make it difficult. A lot of people feel that this has to be Connecticut's best chance. And if they don't get it now, at least with this group, it might not happen. So I really do not know. It's going to come down to whoever just goes out there and grabs it. That's really it.
Yeah, it's going to come down to heart, hustle, all of the things that both of the teams have, right? So you're going to see it match up head for head. What I will say, though, is that Minnesota definitely needs, I know they've been known all season for their offense, which obviously is stellar and great, beautiful at times, to be honest. When you watch it, you're just like, it's breathtaking basketball. But they allowed Connecticut to shoot 57% from the three, 55% from the field, and 50 points in the paint as well. So for them, they really got to focus on their defense this game. It's going to all come down to that because, you know that the Sun are going to bring it on both ends. Like they have consistently, and obviously their defense is like, chef's kiss. But when it comes down to this, Minnesota can't just rely on their offense. They got to lock down that defense because that's why they're in this game 5, to be honest, is that the lack thereof is what I should say. So I don't know, but when I think about the edge, it's just like a slight edge one way or the other. Like I can't even, it's a coin toss. Like you said, I can't say what it's going to be, but what I do know is I want to watch it. This is what the W is all about. Like I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
That's where I'm glad that the Seattle Kraken have an afternoon game, because I will be done with enough time. I'm going to get my popcorn and things too, because this is going to be a must-watch game. I really feel like, and Kathy Engelbert has said this, anytime the New York Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces play, that's appointment viewing, right? And they played each other in the semifinals. So we already saw some of the numbers from that series come in. I'm sure we'll see more come in, but people were locked and loaded. This series right here, like on the creep, on the sneak, this is like this. I don't even know what I don't even know what the word is for it. This could be an instant classic if this goes down the way I think it's going to go down. I don't see it being a blowout. That would take a lot of will, just because I think that these two teams, they counterpunch each other very well. Very, very well. Because to your point, Minnesota, they did not play defensively very well because that Connecticut was doing something that they hadn't done for most of the season, which is, and in the series, making perimeter shots. But usually Minnesota can play better defense, and they are able to stop and at will more than they did in the last game. So which version of either team are we going to see? That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it exciting.
It's so exciting. And another thing too, people have been saying, oh, well, Minnesota has home court advantage. Do they? Because we saw that we saw that the Sun got that first one, right? So they're already like, we don't care where we play. We can win wherever. And also, traditionally the Minnesota crowd has been very loyal to the team, but I don't know if they're really into the chippiness of the game and things like that either. So I don't know. I think it's going to be just who is on the court and how they play. Period. They could be playing in a room full of nobody, and I think this would be an instant classic. So, but
good one.
And I just hope that everybody, all these people who are like, WNBA basketball is great because of, maybe just one player that they were watching or whatever. No, this is why it's great. This is why it's great. Watch this game so you can see exactly what we have been talking about for years and what has been happening in the W. Because even both of these teams too have been killing all year, but haven't gotten kind of like the notoriety and, all of that. They haven't gotten the just due that they should have had as teams that were killing it during the regular season too. So everybody tap in. because if you don't, you're going to miss out, period.
I mean, you said it. You said it,
Must
but we know we're
watch.
going to be watching. We know we're
Yeah.
going to be watching.
Well, we got to go get ready for that. You got to get ready for the Kraken and then the game, and I'm going to get ready for the game. So definitely thank you so much for sitting down with us right here on We Need to Talk Now today, Erica. We appreciate it. How can people find you? How can people
For
find you,
sure.
follow you?
Of course. Well, as you mentioned, I am an analyst and a writer over at CBS Sports and CBS Sports HQ. So after tonight's game, I'll be on HQ talking about the game, and you can head over to cbssports.com to read some of my work. And if you want to follow me personally, you can check out Black Rosie Media, where we empower melanated Black women and melanated creators in sports media. We'll be obviously talking about the finals now that the New York Liberty are there. And you can follow us on all platforms at Black Rosie Media.
Love it. Well, if you don't, just follow everything right now and read everything that she writes because it's fabulous. But thank you so much for analyzing everything with us today and having this conversation. And of course, we'll be here every week with you as we always do. Make sure that you comment, like, share, subscribe, do all the things because we want to stay connected with you. And we'll see you next week or next emergency pod or reaction pod, whatever we may be. Just make sure you're connected so you get all the alerts right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.